नमस्कार, सबका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है सतोलॉजी के शो में। ये लाइव शो है सतोलॉजी यानी डिबंकिंग मिथोलॉजी। इट्स ए एंटोनिम ऑफ मिथोलॉजी और हमारे साथ सभी दिग्गज लोग जुड़े हुए हैं। विभूति झा जी हैं, शरद मोहन टेनेसी से हैं, देश कपूर जी हैं एटलांटा से ईस्ट कोस्ट से हैं और उत्सव फ्रॉम ईस्ट कोस्ट। तो पूरे नेशनल व्यू पॉइंट है फ्रॉम वेस्ट कोस्ट एंड एज वेल एज ईस्ट कोस्ट। सो विभूति जी और सभी लोग अभी बहुत सारा चीज़ें हो गया है। अभी तो गुब्बारे को हम लोग देख रहे थे पूरे अमेरिका में और गुब्बारा पूरा रश चाइना से उड़ा, घूमता हुआ, अलास्का घूमता हुआ, अमेरिका आया, फिर साउथ कैरोलिना से जाके निकल गया। तो ये चल क्या रहा है? गुब्बारे का क्या सीक्रेट है और मतलब सबका व्यू पॉइंट क्या है गुब्बारे के ऊपर और अमेरिकन मीडिया उसको क्यों इतना ज़्यादा रिपोर्ट नहीं कर रही है? व्हाट इट डिड?
Is the question to me or anybody else?
कोई भी बोल सकता है। Anybody can speak.
I think you can start.
All right. वेदर फैक्टर है भैया, मौसम का मुआयना कर रहा था वो। नो बट इट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग कि वो जो गुब्बारा जो था, ब्लूमबर्ग ने उसके बारे में लिखा है कि पब्लिक न्यू अबाउट इट, द गवर्नमेंट न्यू अबाउट इट, बट द क्वेश्चन इज व्हाई दे डिड नथिंग। कहते हैं कि ट्रेसपासर्स विल बी प्रोसिक्यूटेड इज अ लॉन साइन होता है। यहाँ trespassers were entering the country without permission, without visa, but then I forget sometimes. Anybody is welcome without visa in this country. So, वो आ गया अभी तो, लेकिन the issue is very simple. The government did not respond. And when Biden said that I instructed the military to take action on Wednesday, the military chose not to take action until they found it useful. I find particularly very, very flimsy the military gave the excuse कि civilian damage हो जाता अगर हम उसको mainland पे fire करते तो that was so ridiculous. It's not a plane crash, it's a balloon with cameras in it, and national security is national security, so it ought to have been fired and found out. So unless and until it's like Fauci gave money to Wuhan lab, what was the game plan? We will know only when Deshji does his own investigation in it. And Utsav finds out from his communist partners in China as to so what exactly happened, we do not know. And so this is very important to find out. We will not know until we know things. But this is a gross violation that balloon is traversing the entire United States. And I think China is definitely trying to tempt United States into some kind of a confrontation. It's like Hindus were tested with 59 people burnt in Godhra. You got tested, your response. Uske baad se kuch nahi hua, right? When you saw the response, uske baad se shanti hai. If you don't respond, then there is always people test your patience. What it was, we will know only from a PhD discovery now, unless Sharad Mohanji writes a book on it quickly. My initial comments.
You're on mute.
Utsavji, you are mute. Can't hear you still.
Okay. So, personally, the way I look at this was that one, so this as two way, right? One, it showed the intention of China. Second, it showed the preparation of US. So after, remember that a famous Hu Jintao ko जिस तरह से निकाला था बाहर, वो Chinese का जो CCP session हो रहा था. After that, it was very clear that Xi Jinping is actually going to has very little in his hands in terms of economy, in terms of all those the stuff that he has within his own country, politically. So attack is his best opportunity for him. So whether it is Taiwan, whether it is India, whether it is US or West, he is going to do that. And I was expecting this, his actions to be more aggressive, to be more confrontational. and it could also mean that there might be actually a bio attack somewhere at some point. And I think like it may be the next step to COVID or whatever it is. But this was, I think, like one of those things that he was testing the waters. And I don't know how much he succeeded, but it seems he did succeed in a way that he had the US military with tails under their in their legs, and not doing anything. So that is how I see it.
I think can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I echo both Vibhutiji's and Desh Kapoorji's understanding of this issue, but I wanted to add something more about the technicality of some of the things that happened with this balloon flying over the US. So this same thing was attempted in 1959 as a gesture of US dominance over China. So the US had flown a so-called weather balloon. In those days, high lens aperture satellites were not there. The spy satellites were in their very infancy at that time. So the US had done the exact same thing to China in the name of a weather balloon in 1959. And so I think there was a symbolic gesture as well from the Chinese, with technology on both sides being far more developed now. So there are a couple of things that this balloon achieved. Number one being that you really do not need very powerful spy satellites to spy on a country from the space, because this was flying at a height of about 60 to 65,000 feet over its track, which was almost a satellite, low stratosphere satellite. But at the same time, it was low tech. It didn't need rockets and all these things to go up. So that tells you that the Chinese are mitigating their the technological advantage that the US has already achieved over them in the last 4 or 5 decades in terms of satellite technology. The second point that this balloon achieved was it actually showed the world that the US does not have dedicated high altitude surface to air missiles, something that Russia has and has had since the 1970s. The US had to spend 4 days, starting Wednesday, to figure out tactically how to shoot this down. That's a huge amount of time. You don't have that kind of time in a real war scenario. So President Biden admitted in a public press conference, that he had ordered to shoot this down on Wednesday to the US Air Force. And it took them 4 days to figure it out. Ultimately, over multiple sorties and over multiple attempts, including at least 2 visually failed ones, they were able to shoot this down. And they had to use a F-22 Raptor, which is the top of the line, cutting edge air superiority aircraft that the US had. And they had to use a AIM Sidewinder missile. Again, a last moment jugaad, literally, from the US side to shoot this down. And as I said, that tells you a lot about what's happening. And not just tactically, but strategically also.
नहीं, लोग बोल रहे थे इसके अंदर 3 बस लोड का वेट भी था, इसके 3 बस लोड का। नॉर्मली ये बलून 1 लाख फीट की ऊंचाई पे उड़ते हैं, अभी इस समय वो सिर्फ 60,000 फीट की ऊंचाई पे थे, बिकॉज ऑफ द लोड। और F-22 यूज करना पड़ा, कोई और भी नहीं, F-22 यूज करना पड़ा, वो भी बड़ा सरप्राइजिंग था। शरद मोहन जी शायद वेट कर रहे हैं। शरद मोहन जी कूद पड़िए, बताइए।
No, I agree with all of you said, Utsav especially. जब पॉल हार्बर हुआ था तो भी अमेरिकन्स लोग ब्रेकफास्ट कर रहे थे और 1 घंटा सॉलिड बॉम्बिंग करके जापानीज गया, and nothing has changed from surveillance perspective. So second thing is कि I won't give that much to Xi Jinping कि वो इतना strategic और इतना aggressive है, in spite of he having all the challenges inside. It was a balloon, and it definitely served 2 purpose. एक तो है कि they thought कि the balloon has just got into America. The strategy they had was they I would say busted 2 balloons. So एक तो Latin America, second was in America. So there was always an excuse कि भाई it was an experimental project which got screwed up, and we don't have a remote control to control the direction. And the height on which it was shot, it could have given some data to him, like कहाँ से missile shot हुआ, उसका जो curvature है या वो जो path missile लेता है, that could have fed into some of the strategic data which they could have used or passed it to Russia, whatever. And also China preparing themselves ki, in West Coast, how they are covered. Now coming to America is ki for 4 days, what Biden is saying, कि their army was following this. अमेरिका कब से इतना टॉलरेंट हो गया कि उसके कंट्री में 4 दिन से कोई घुस के एंड दिस बलून इज गोइंग एंड देन दे आर मेकिंग डिसीजन. सो दिस शोज कि दिस इज अ न्यू अमेरिका विद लॉट ऑफ इंटॉलरेंस. एंड आई विल लाइक टू रैप अप इज कि मैं कल टेनेसी में गया था. देयर इज अ बिग फेस्टिवल हियर. जस्ट कल रात में ही मैंने अपने फेसबुक में पोस्ट भी किया है, चाइनीज लैंटर्न फेस्टिवल. It was jam packed. People were paying from their nose money for seeing this lantern, Chinese lantern. And कोई intolerance, कोई feeling नहीं है. वो अमेरिका नहीं रहा रेगन एरा का अमेरिका जो like nationalist हो, patriotic हो, और they get very angry कि उसके country में कोई घुस गया. America has changed. People were enjoying. कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है कि एक बलून घुस गया उनके देश में, so called super power, इतने बड़े super power. People were enjoying. So I can see changing America, like 4 days of this balloon entering and our army just monitoring it. Monitoring क्या, they didn't catch the initial entry. So I see things from a lot of social perspective. Americans have accepted Chinese very much in their day-to-day life. काफी डिपेंडेंसी है, वो एग्रेशन नहीं रहेगा चाइनीज का. सेकंड थिंग इज कि Chinese had a very good calculation because a lot of American planes also fly above China for different reason. And अगर इसको मारता तो they could have used the same thing to future में इनको shut down करने के लिए. तो उनका multiple purpose solve हुआ. I won't say कि Xi Jinping is that strategic कि उसने बहुत सोच समझ के calculated किया. He doesn't have the balls to challenge America directly. He is purely a businessman. But this is how I see.
If I may add here to what Saratji is saying, that I have only one difference of opinion. Chinese Xi Jinping is a very strategic player. वो शतरंज खेलते हैं साहब. वो शतरंज के मोहरे खेल रहे हैं. And take, as the saying goes, never take your enemy for granted. Right? And I have said this before and I'll say it again, that Chinese, like you talked about the lantern festival, Chinese are in every single household, whether Americans like it or not. Ever since the trade deficit manufacturing moved to China, from your garden chair to even a 911 pin, Apple instruments, things like that. China is in every single American household in one form or the other. So while Russia collapsed, USSR collapsed, nobody felt the pain because Russia did not manufacture anything for any consumption by the Americans. They only had Sputnik and Lada car, right? Which we didn't use. But China recognized this part, that after dismantling USSR, the capitalist forces will come to us, and they won the geopolitical battle very, very smartly. By inviting American, getting entry into WTO, they figured it out that the only way to get into American pant, shirt, and bed is by manufacturing and putting things in American household. So from your sandal to your victory pin to 911 pin to Apple things, everything is made in China. Think about it. So now they can easily collapse the US economy by shutting down their exports to China, to United States for 1 week. That's it. Or just an announcement that we are not going to ship any goods and services to America. Done. US, your markets will go topsy-turvy and nobody would know what hit them. That's the important part.
I kind of differ slightly on this.
Please.
And my take has been that I used to say like almost half jokingly earlier on, for many years, that Chinese government actually pays 40% of my grocery bill every week. And that was actually quite true in the way that how they were actually, discounting and subsidizing the whole manufacturing to a point where those guys could increase the scale and then could actually counter the whole world and global manufacturing market and yet not be impacted. So what they would do is वो एक Ponzi scheme था. This Ponzi scheme has been running for last 30-40 years now, where the Chinese government gets the FDI and they actually pump the entire subsidies for the manufacturing, and the manufacturing keeps going on. In fact, if you look at the three big industries there in China, banking, real estate, and manufacturing, they're all in a tizzy right now. They're all in very bad shape, and all three of them have some kind of a Ponzi element to them. Like in the sense के जो real estate है वो बढ़ाए जा रहे हैं without having people to get into that, and now they're demolishing all that. So it was like paying forward without having the money for it. And in that sense, after Biden did what he did with the semiconductor industry in the US, like in China was in a very, very bad state, and it's there even now. Now, like I agree with you that China can actually bring a whole lot of things down, within the US. The reason why they cannot like truly pin China down is because इनके खुद का जो इकोनॉमी है ना, जो पूरा वो जिस स्टेट में है इकोनॉमी, उसमें अगर चाइना की अगर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अगर यहाँ आनी बंद हो जाए, like you are saying, then most of the middle class will go bankrupt. Most of it, almost like 70 to 80% of the middle class will not have the wherewithal to actually pay for the grocery, and second, even have that. Like, in fact, if you go to Walmarts these days, I don't know, like I have seen this, most of the shelves are actually quite empty these days. I actually, this is increasing. I've seen this. And like part of the reason is because that manufacturing that was taken for granted is not happening now. And that entire supply chain has been disturbed very, very badly. And so in that sense, there is a very precarious balance that US and China has. Very precarious. अगर वो थोड़ा सा डिस्टर्ब हो जाएगा ना, और ये वो दोनों एक दूसरे को टेस्ट कर रहे हैं. बाइडेन ने टेस्ट किया विद सेमीकंडक्टर का, वो जो लाइक जो किया उसने अटैक किया वहां पर उनकी इंडस्ट्री पे, और ये भी कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर टेस्ट. सो आई थिंक that games will keep going on and on, as they go on until a point. And like another factor, I think somebody alluded to that, was the Russia factor. I won't be surprised if China is actually working along with Russia on some of these projects, because like Russia is a direct beneficiary of all these things. And Putin ne abhi kaha recently that we have our allies within the American continent, and we are not the same Russia as Soviet Union was. The wars will not be the same as they used to be. This time the wars will be very, very different. And I think like we should understand that there are many, many levels and colors to this like warfare, the geopolitical warfares that happen. So even if it is to actually, there is a frog, frogs are put in the pan. अगर बहुत तेज से उसको करोगे तो वो भाग जाएंगे, अगर धीरे 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 करोगे तो वो मर जाएंगे वहां पर, right? Yeah. So boiling the frog like situation, maybe that's what they're testing. I don't know, but I think there are many factors to this along with like Russia also.
I'll take a cue from Sharadji's point. He said changing America. तो क्या अमेरिका बदल रहा है? क्योंकि देखिए वो हम लोग यहाँ पे रहते हैं और हम लोग यहाँ पे सिटीजन्स हैं सभी लोग, तो हम लोगों को वी कैन सी लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स व्हिच हैव चेंज्ड ओवर द इयर्स. तो ये अमेरिका किस तरह बदल रहा है, उस पे क्या हम लोग सोच सकते हैं सब लोग? मेरे हिसाब से क्या हो रहा है कि पहले जो फ्रीडम थी यहाँ पे, स्पेशली अभी हम लोग ज़्यादा जागरूक हैं. We are more aware about our Hindu identity, and we are trying to spread the knowledge of yoga and everywhere else. लेकिन things have how things have changed in this country over the years, क्योंकि सभी लोग आप सब लोग बहुत लंबे समय, हम सभी लोग यहाँ पे बहुत लंबे समय से.
What do you think? You are the
See,
battler. You are the battler between Sattology and mythology. What do you think is happening? I'm now wearing my TV interview hat.
thank you for putting me on the spot. See, I see a lot of change. Like when I came to this country, it was a totally different country. अभी इतना बदल चुका है कि like you're scared to open your mouth nowadays, and the cancel culture is so prominent. और इतना हम लोग यूनिवर्सिटी सिस्टम में तो हम लोग शुरू से देख रहे हैं कि यहाँ पे अपने कल्चर के बारे में बहुत ही नेगेटिव पढ़ाया जाता है, आज भी पढ़ाया जाता है, नेगेटिव ही पढ़ाया जाता है. एंड डिस्पाइट वी हैव ट्राइड एवरीथिंग, द टेक्स्ट बुक्स हैव नॉट चेंज्ड. और उत्सव तो इसमें बड़ा उछल रहे होंगे क्योंकि हिंदू एक्शन फोरम उनका ही चलता है. So lot of things are there still as it is, and Vibhuti ji, one thing is there, we have not protested enough yet. Not protested enough yet. We have not asked enough yet. इस देश में क्या है? The duck which quacks the loudest gets a cracker. So we are not quacked enough yet. So we are still trying, but we're not done it yet.
A follow-up question: do we have the ability to quack?
अभी आप मीडिया में हैं, आपको मालूम है हमारे पास कोई प्लेटफॉर्म ही नहीं है.
Exactly.
We have the ability. Whether we have the intention to do that is another thing.
That's another point. Yeah, that's right. That's very true. But I remember one thing. I have said this many times in my shows, and all of you are aware of this. But I want to say this to the audience who are listening today and who will listen to this in the future. As one US senator told me, since you talked about it, Aditya ji, about asking or protesting or claiming or asserting, the senator told me, we love you Indians as immigrants to this country. You are professionals, you are hardworking, you have high family values, you take care of your children, you are in the highest median income, you are not a law and order problem anywhere, and you don't ask for anything. So, and that's where you get taken for granted. I will narrate this part, and Utsavji will agree with me that there is a need for immediate action. आज की तारीख में आपने देखा होगा, there was somebody posted Twitter पे कि some Muslim guy was talking about that these Hindus are dangerous people. They are hiding behind yoga and meditation to push their vile agenda. Now think about it.
That was our that was a good point.
Yeah, you posted that. Say something about it.
It's a segue to something that both of you spoke about. So I was the Hindu Action, which is a very new organization with $0 in the bank account, $21 in the bank account. We were the only organization that actually attended the International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington, D.C. Think about it. There are 4 million plus American Hindus. And there are multiple organizations with $1 million budgets. Not a single organization was at an event which was attended by Jill Biden, and which had more than 100 plus countries, religious minorities from 100 plus countries being represented, and India and Hindus being bashed left, right, and center in it. And that's where one of the speakers, our Twitter account posted it. One of the speakers was saying, he was from a Muslim group, Islamist group. He said it with in a closed session that India gets away, and India and Hindus get away with many things because they have the soft power of democracy and yoga. And that was his attempt to insert, you cannot call it anything but anti-Hindu or Hindu-phobic narrative in the audience. So that tells you where we stand in terms of our ability or the desire to do action in any way, to quack, as as you put it so rightly. That is one of the bigger problems. But regarding outreach, lawmakers, and all these things, the problem that we have is that for a very, very long time, we did not present ourselves as American Hindus. Even today, there is a huge section of our population that continues to present itself as Indian Americans. That was very good in the first generation or the first 2 decades of our community being an immigrant community here. It will start losing its relevance as time passes, because more and more American Hindus are not Indian Americans. They are Hindus who are born and brought up in America. And the longer we continue to project extra geographical identity, I'm not saying it's a wrong identity, I'm saying it's not the only identity we have, the lesser our influence will be in our grassroots and in the Capitol Hill or in the halls of power, both, not just in the halls of power but also in the grassroots. Because you have the asset of belonging to a religion that is probably theologically the most universal in nature, which the Chinese don't have, which the Armenians don't have, which the Israelis do have, being part of the Abrahamic system. But we have that asset, but we never use it. We continue to project ourselves as Indian Americans, as South Asian Americans, all extra geographical in nature. And from there itself, we lose our, it's like you're setting up yourself up for a doctrinal failure in terms of people who are opposing you. At the very beginning, you are starting with one leg tied to your hands. So that's, I think, where our problem lies.
So भाइयों, एक क्वेश्चन आया है इधर, वो इसी टॉपिक से रिलेटेड है, ये बलून के टॉपिक से। तो पहले बलून वाला टॉपिक ले लेते हैं, कोई भी इसको आंसर कर सकता है आप में से कोई भी। डू यू थिंक चाइना इज गोइंग टू अटैक ताइवान इन फ्यूचर एंड दे वर जस्ट टेस्टिंग अमेरिका's रिएक्शन बाय दिस balloon activity?
I feel they would, and but that attack may not be the attack that we think China would actually use. So it could very well be an economic warfare, or it could be a bio warfare. It could be any of these. But if it is a normal war, then US will attack or will defend Taiwan. But that is the point, because like it will not go through the normal or direct warfare the way we envisage it. So yes, it will. How is the question?
There is nothing like a normal warfare anymore. It is quick strike, quick hit. That's the whole game. I don't know how America lasted or stayed in Afghanistan and Iraq and now Ukraine. I mean, what is this fancy for America to stay so long in the war? Although Ukraine is not America's war, but you all know, we are not eyes closed in this matter. So while we have tragically fight against gun on the street in cities, but we supply billions of weapons to others to kill. So there is a very unfortunate distortion in the way we think. We justify other killings, not our own. So it's very bizarre in the name of democracy. But I think you are right. Taiwan will not be a direct war, in my opinion, because we are looking at, if China and America step in, whatever you talked about the normal war, it will have to be supersonic war, if not nuclear. So the idea will be that Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier in the ring, it is a knockdown. Nothing else will matter. It will not be a handshake. Will be after somebody's teeth is gone. So I would say that they have never fought war. China has not fought a war since 1962. One doesn't know whether it is battle ready. As somebody was telling yesterday, that the only war China have fought is the fist fight with Indian soldiers on the territory there. So China is, I do not know what they are testing actually, but they do know how to irritate you. They do know how to irk you. They know how to provoke you. And they know, whether Americans like it or not, whether you and I like it or not, they are in our household. They are in our homes, listening, knowing everything. So I think there will not be a war, but there will be. Taiwan, there will be a deal on that. And at the end of the day, America doesn't give a damn about 20 million Taiwanese. They will do a deal for peace and democracy. That's where the mantra lies now. Sorry to say that.
See, what I see is that if USA doesn't interfere and comes out of China or Taiwan, both countries will merge. If you look at the thing, both countries will merge, either forcibly or reverse merger, because Taiwan claims whole China, China claims Taiwan. So if we are come out of the middle, हम लोग बीच में है बिल्ली, तो दोनों हो जाएगा. They both will merge.
Sorry to interrupt here, but I'll tell you one thing. This territorial adjustments, because the earth is given, number of countries are given, right, at the moment. So India needs back its own POK. Russia needs its own destroyed versions. Europe has a fetish for territorial adjustments within their own continent, which they call world issue, world wars and world issue. These are all territorial things. Kings have always tried to expand their territory, gain more. So the shape and size of it is changing now. It's no longer 1,000 cavalry marching over somebody's land. It's
So, let me add here also regarding Prasun Pandey's question. China will not attack militarily because China, I don't see Chinese that strong, but Chinese are very good in drone technology, and the whole attack will be, and war, as everybody said, is no more direct army to army war. They will be using drone and maybe bio weapons to neutralize Taiwan. That is his answer. Now, there was first thing which I wanted to talk regarding the second question, which was regarding is America changing? Yes, America has changed a lot. As I mentioned, that the acceptance of Chinese in all parts of American life, whether it's just a material thing in the house or whether having a Chinese spouse in their house, the acceptance is both ways. It's like culturally, Americans have accepted Chinese very much like their own. Maybe the lighter skin color could be one of the reasons, but the acceptance is more. Uh, America has changed. It is defining who's a woman, and in Nevada, if you know the beauty pageant happened recently, and the most beautiful woman of Nevada is a man, and this was voted in 2023. So this is the change America is going through, right? The wokeism has definitely taken over. Woke is not always bad. It's a very liberal idea, especially we as a minority. We were never given a prominence in any paper. I see any American stand against India is a good sign because I remember a lot of Hollywood movies in 70s and 80s where they used to ridicule China and Chinese culture like left, right, and center, like anything. Right? If you see any movies, they were direct racist. If you see all the Hollywood old movies, but China kept on growing, and this is where they had started noticing China. India, when we landed here, India was not even mentioned, like a full stop or comma or a dot, right? India was nowhere. Now, even if it has started in a negative way, India is getting prominence because India is affecting, whether it's a oil decision, whether Russia war decision, whether voting against United Nations, they know that India is no more a pushover. And this is where all these BBCs and Adanis and all these things are happening. And recently we are hearing that all the medicines coming from India, because India is is aspiring to be a pharma giant, they're having problem, whether it's in New York, विभूति जी, आपके स्टेट में ही चेन्नई से कुछ आई ड्रॉप्स आया और उसमें कुछ कंटामिनेशन हो गया वगैरह वगैरह. So the small things have been exaggerated, and this is going to affect the brand India. So how India stands up, we'll have to see. Regarding the very quickly regarding Utsav ji, Hindu I think I totally like that idea. The problem is कि हमारे पास scholars कम है. हमारे पास our जैसे मैं एक दो calls पे cultural appropriation के लिए I was invited to address few kids in North Carolina, Indian American kids, and they were like, they had a very interesting question, but there is no organized way, there is no central repository जहाँ पे इनको answer किया जाए कि what is Hinduism, or you cannot always pull them back to everything with India. Now they have their own identity in America. उनको उसी आइडेंटिटी को और फर्दर कैसे to feel the confidence and वहां से उनको हिंदुइज्म आगे कैसे लेके जाना है. I think a lot of work has to be done and a lot of thinking has to go there. Abhi, I don't think we as a community have reached there. So this is what I have to say. And very quickly, Aditya ji, if we discuss the topic Asian unity, right? In this Ukraine war, सब लोग कह रहे हैं कि जो Russia, China and India will come together with one central currency and fight the West and NATO, right? Those type of discussion. Do we see that Asia will ever come together, especially when China wants all the space and giving no space to a country like India? अगर ये we can discuss this also in context of Ukraine war, that will be great. Thank you.
नहीं, आपने क्वेश्चन रख दिया तो कुछ डिस्कस ही हो जाएगा अभी.
मैं कुछ कहना चाहता था regarding
बोलिए
Taiwan का थोड़ा सा. So I actually differ with much of the conventional opinion on the war, the so-called future war between America versus China on Taiwan, or China invading Taiwan. I think China has been quietly taking notes on the color revolutions. If you noticed what color revolutions are, for the audience who is not that aware of it, between 2008 to 2018, America helped, quote unquote, helped countries around the world where they could gain a foothold in power structure through what was described as color revolution. They had it in the Middle East, they had it in Ukraine, where the local government, which was anti-American by American perception, was sometimes in a very violent way overthrown, and what was then termed as a color revolution. Like in Ukraine, it was called the Maidan Revolution, which brought the current disposition to power. In much of the world, the color revolution succeeded. In many places, it devolved into civil wars, notably Syria. And in some places, it became a disaster, as you can see in Ukraine. What I'm trying to say here is that China has been observing this, many other countries have been observing this, and they are going to attempt some form of hybrid warfare, especially China in Taiwan, where they won't actually need physical military assets, or they will need very minimal physical military assets to intimidate China into joining into intimidate Taiwan into joining China. It could be possible that in the future there will be political dispositions and voices of dissent coming within Taiwan that will naturally create a public desire, or enough public desire, to want to join China, for initially for economic reasons, maybe later for social reasons. So there will be that form of hybrid warfare where you will actually not see bullets flying, but other form of social tools being used to integrate Taiwan into China. America is opposing that very aggressively. If you notice, America keeps pumping more and more money into Taiwan to try to keep its political disposition from even looking towards China. But how long that will succeed? Because when there is a strong thesis, there is always an antithesis that shows up somewhere. So we have to see, we have to observe. And by the way, I just wanted to, since most of the audience here is from India, and we all consider ourselves Indian Americans as well, similar attempts of color revolutions are going to be made in India as well. It has been attempted in the past, and watch out for 2024.
Absolutely. Because like whether it is the whole judiciary battles that are going on right now, and the attempt of judiciary to actually co-opt the entire election commission, by saying कि वो election commission जो है like उसमें judge भी होगा, clearly shows that, see, like whether you look at the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, or like any other revolution, all the other color revolutions, activism and the civil disobedience, euphemistically called like civil disobedience, in all those countries, has been one tool. The other tool has been managing the elections itself. And like in India, I think judiciary is the front line for the entire managing of the elections. On the other side, the wokeism that is being pumped into India on a daily basis, and all those ये जो Bharat Jodo Yatra, whatever that like crap that this guy is doing, Rahul Gandhi, and everything related to that, is something that they are trying to actually use for that civil disobedience. And on the other hand, like when I look at like, I don't know, like if we are going to actually discuss Adani or whatever, all those things that happen, like they are actually
this is
trying to,
we are entering there now. You are taking us there.
So they are actually trying to use the attack on Adani and the rest of the folks. This started long back. जब वो farmers का movement हुआ था, the way geo towers were being brought down, and all those things were being said against Ambani and then Adani as well. all those people who form the backbone of Modi's infrastructure play and future financial play will actually be attacked. That is how it is going to happen. So, three-way this is going on right now. Weaken Modi, have the that Maidan kind of revolutions, and also managing the elections. So these three things is the way I see it right now happening.
See, अदानी का इंसिडेंट बड़ा बड़ा मैजिकल इंसिडेंट है, और it just clearly shows that how a 5 employee company can produce a report which can try to bring down $120 billion down for somebody else. So ये तो it's like we have done many shows on this. Vibhuti has done many shows on this, and everybody has done many shows on this. तो एक de-dollarization का स्क्रिप्ट चल रहा है हर जगह, एक चल रहा है इस पे very conclusively people have, Ankit Shah has said it, so तो अभी अदानी का जो एपिसोड है उससे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा भारत को और इंडिया यूएस रिलेशंस पे, बिकॉज इट विल इम्पैक्ट इंडिया यूएस रिलेशन समवेयर. What do you think?
See, जो Hindenburg ने किया, that is not the real story. The real story is what happened after that. See, in 1982, actually Ambani was also attacked. जब Reliance का वो आ रहा था convertible bond का जो issue था. At that time also, this Kolkata, bear cartel, like उसमें वो Manik जो भी उस समय वो बंदा था, he was the main mastermind. He started attacking, like bringing down the share price, and Ambani counter-attacked. Dhirubhai Ambani, but that was Dhirubhai Ambani, and he counter-attacked in a way that his NRI investors started buying the shares, and to a point where those guys had such a bad mauling by Dhirubhai that they just could not recover at that time. That is why I found it really very interesting that the entire backbone of this Hindenburg's report was actually Mahua Moitra. So there was some connection to that. Like, I don't know what it was, whether direct, indirect, known, unknown, whatever it was, but I have a feeling that something happened, because see, the real story is how the stock was brought down. Not the Hindenburg. That was a camouflage. वो तो किटी पार्टी रिपोर्ट थी. वो तो जो उसने आईपीओ के अपने प्रोस्पेक्टस में लिखा था, जो पूरा वो the first risk, that was presented as some kind of a conspiracy theory going on. Really? उसने खुद अपने प्रोस्पेक्टस में लिखा है. God damn it.
इन्फॉर्मेशन है वो, डिक्लेरेशन था वो तो.
डिक्लेरेशन था. तो उसको वो तो किटी पार्टी रिपोर्ट था. मैं अगर एमबीए के अगर फर्स्ट ईयर में ऐसी रिपोर्ट अगर देता ना, मेरे को डी मिलता.
कॉपी पेस्ट.
वो इतनी घटिया रिपोर्ट थी. हाँ,
नंबर वन कंप्यूटर स्किल इज कॉपी पेस्ट. कंट्रोल सी कंट्रोल वी.
लेवरेज भी अगर देखो, लाइक उसका जो कहते हैं वो डेट टू इबिटा अगर देखें, वो भी उसका 3.2 है. अरे बाकियों का देखो ना. गो एंड लुक एट किंडर मॉर्गन, लाइक दैट्स मच हायर देन हिज. Look at L&T, that's much higher than his. So, and plus all of his entire businesses, मैंने आज के actually newsletter में ये लिखा है, all his businesses are actually getting their cash flow from the business, from the government, from the Indian government, whether it's the airports, whether it's the, this whole cement or whatever it is. He is actually guaranteed by the sovereign fund or sovereign money of India. Like, it's a clear cash flow. How could it be such a bad thing for the investors? I just don't understand.
I will step in here for two comments. One is that Supreme Court जो issue है India में जो चल रहा है, it's a serious matter. जैसे 2020 में after Trump was dethroned, I had announced in my show, and all of you perhaps know about my thought on it, that the left liberal Marxist Islamist caravan will come to India to dismantle Modi and BJP and Hindutva. That is the agenda is coming. The toolkit is in operation. And Supreme Court, by the way, the court system in India in democracy is now operating as the lender of the last resort to these toolkit operators. and justices are behaving in that. So there is a definite, because Supreme Court is no god. They are made of people like you and I with our own individual failings. So the question is that why do we treat Supreme Court ne kaha as if it is Supreme Lord? It is not that way. So this is very important. The second part is the entire India and the Hindenburg and all that. Yes, today New York Times has written an article. Somebody has written an article. The Adani's fall indicates India's future. And as you were saying just now a few minutes ago, that he is always in every infrastructure related items. But New York Times didn't talk about the fact that the US financial system will collapse because of Michael Milken or Drexler or Sam Floyd Blakeman or Jeff or this guy, Bernie
$3.8
Madoff.
billion
It's a
lost in last
Freudian,
2 years.
Exactly.
Freudian slip
But-
here actually from that entire lobby. Like
Correct.
what actually New York Times said was actually Freudian slip.
They did not realize.
Because
Thank you, Freud.
they did not realize, because that's exactly what they're also arguing. Exactly what Adani argued. In his reply to Hindenburg. That's exactly what New York also New York Times Alec is also arguing there.
And you're totally right. You're totally right that the kind of, if you see a prospectus of any public
Right.
issue or initial IPO, that all the risk factors are already written there, including government policy, weather, or unforeseen circumstances, right? Everything is written. You walk in with your eyes wide open, knowing that, to use the American slang, and permit me to say that, Aditya, shit can happen anytime. So that's the
Boeing,
But-
Boeing.
But the
I-
duality, the dubious nature of the attack is very simple. That whether it is IT sector or it's anything else, Modi ji has definitely brought out the pride, the restoration of activities, the manufacturing, and agriculture is the soul of the country. America lost its soul when they siphoned off the manufacturing entirely to overseas. At that time, in 1991, I had opined in our own strategy group with American Express that by siphoning off manufacturing, you are killing the soul of the country, because the blue collar worker will not be able to adopt new tech and the service sector methodologies. Today, what is happening? You can buy an airline ticket from a company in Kadapa, for all that I care, or Jumri Tilea. That's the extent of technology that has gone in. So I'm thinking that this particular thing is a definite hit job, and the toolkit operation has begun in all earnestness, and without any fanfare, it is going to happen. Whether it's a Mahua or a Jawar, it will happen from everywhere.
I just wanted to add something about the Supreme Court, because this is part of the discussion now. So at the IRF summit, there were speakers who actually brought this up in closed door discussion. So they presented Chief Justice Chandrachud as the hope of India. I'm quoting here. So if we pay attention enough, we can actually find enough evidence that they are not even hiding. So he was presented as somebody who is going to stand up to, again, I'm quoting here, Hindu fascism. And his background as being a person of LGBTQ community whose daughter is physically handicapped, adopted daughter is physically handicapped, was presented as evidence of him being a liberal and a progressive, and was contrasted to that of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who abandoned his wife. This was a part of the speech, actually, and is fascist by his life lessons as well as by his ideology. So this actually was presented as part of a speech in Washington D.C. just 3 days ago. So if we are, if people in India have any doubts about what's going on here, I think they should just open up their eyes a little bit and they will see it.
Yeah. So Aditya, let me add here. So regarding the Supreme Court, our Chief Justice is a Harvard alumni, and he is bringing all the values from Harvard, and especially the woke thing. I think somebody had commented, yes, woke is a problem in India, so we are not supporting it. the way Mr. Chief Justice of India is bringing, especially with the extramarital affair. He's even legalizing it in India. So that is one thing. Second thing is the gay judge. Police verification was put on the public domain for everybody to see. This has never happened in India. So the war is direct. Not sure why the government with a brute majority is still keeping quiet and using a justice minister to just fight, which is beyond my imagination of this type of strategy. Now, coming to Mahua Mitra. Mahua Mitra, as Deshi, you rightly said, Mahua Mitra ka boyfriend ya ex-husband is a foreign national. He's a Swiss guy or Switzerland guy, somebody from Europe. तो वो काफी वैल्यू सिस्टम इम्बेड करके आई है फ्रॉम वोकिज्म पर्सपेक्टिव एंड शी इज डेफिनेटली शी मे बी अ लूज कैनन बट आई एम स्टिल सरप्राइज कि Amit Shah and Home Ministry is like literally allowing her to make all sorts of comments. Now regarding the stock failure, टेस्ला स्टॉक कभी 1 ट्रिलियन का मार्केट कैप हुआ करता था, $162 बिलियन डाउन हुआ. देयर वाज नोबडी बर्निंग द कैपिटल हिल, नो अपोजिशन पार्टी बर्निंग द कैपिटल हिल. वी ourselves lost so much money in Tesla, right? And Adani को इसलिए पीछे पड़े हैं कि एक तो you know Adani was not doing entertainment, GME stock, AMC stock. Adani was doing infrastructure stock. India ka next fight and becoming a power is infrastructure, which is the what you say, star for Modi project, which is infrastructure. And Adani was hit badly by the vested group using our Indian politicians, and see how opposition have ganged up. So there is so it's going through a very interesting phase where all these things are happening, and this government has a strategy of being quiet. I mean, it has worked for 1 term, 2 term, but every term it will work same strategy. I don't know. Eventually, this government will be the winner, but as a supporter, we feel that they react very late. They do react. It's not that they're not reacting, but they react very late when things are over. And this, for supporters, is really hurting us. That's all I
See,
have.
regarding the judiciary, Sharadji, this is what my nuance would be. That so there are 3-pronged actions that they are taking. One is the law minister. The other is the president and the vice president. So president and vice president, especially the vice president, has been saying a lot of things. At least 3 times he has said, and that like one was a Constitution Day, and one was another meeting, and then it was in Rajya Sabha itself.
In the House, yeah.
So, yeah, in the House itself. So, so what they are trying to do is counter a constitutional authority with a constitutional authority, which is higher than the judiciary. So the attempt is, and Draupadi Murmu, President Draupadi Murmu is, one the right way to actually attack them, but Vice President Dhankar is actually a very good, sound mind in terms of legal arguments.
Yes.
So he's making those kind of arguments. The idea is to actually fight this battle in a way that there is no counter also. Now, see, the way I see it is that the judiciary jo hai, that has actually turned this democracy into a dicastocracy now. It's a rule by the judges that is going on. The very act of looking at 370, at demonetization, at all these things, it is to actually counter what the executive was trying to do, and they have no authority over that. So this is like we are moving into that realm of dicastocracy now, where the rule will be by the judges itself and not by the people. So that is like one thing I wanted to add here.
Actually, for some people have asked these questions, so we can take one question at a time very quickly. Number one is for we define. Let me just do that quickly. This question has been pending for a long time. Global South. and whether India will is India trying to make parallel global body to UN by declaring itself as leader of global South if UNSC doesn't reform? आप म्यूट
Your
पे हैं.
voice is
Yeah. I will take a quick stab at it in a short time. Is that yes, that United Nations has failed in its responsibilities, we all know. That it is a bigger than white elephant, everybody knows. And as External Affairs Minister Jaishankar ji had been very scathing on that United States Security Council reform is a must. And so recently, Prime Minister called for the Global South Summit, and it was very successful. And thanks to technology, the world is getting to know things much faster. Today, with the help of this one, we can know the traffic and road conditions and weather conditions in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, for that matter. So the question here is that now world is awakening, and you are going to need a new world order. This world order, a rules-based world order that the West talks about, who makes the rules? So now people are questioning, now whose rules are we talking about here, right? So that's what Jaishankar ji is doing right now, is to show. He said that world will see a robust external affairs and foreign policy pronouncements from India, and he is doing it. So I mean, it is a happy sign for India that we are able to make a clear mark on the global scene. And by the way, let people remember, one of the most glorious, underrated speech of Prime Minister was when he came here after the 370 was done. It was a very plain, simple speech in which he asked the world nations to participate in India's growth story. He didn't touch upon 370. Remember that when Pakistan Prime Minister was ranting away to glory on 370, Indian Prime Minister was talking about inviting the world to participate in India's growth story. That was a very subtle thing. As a TV analyst, as a banker, as an student of economics, I remember that speech, and I said this in Palki Sharma's show, that that's the fundamental difference between the leadership that he displayed. So I would say, yes, be prepared for the change. It's coming.
नहीं, अभी उत्सव जी को रेडी होना पड़ेगा. डीसी में आने वाले हैं मोदी जी. और मैंने क्वेश्चन डिस्प्ले नहीं किया, लेकिन पूछ रहे हैं आप कैन में पी क्या रहे हैं उत्सव जी. लोग ऐसा पूछ रहे हैं.
ये कोका कोला है. सुबह उठ के नींद भगा रहे हैं संडे को. I didn't want to endorse any brand here, so मैं ऐसे हाथ से ढक के पी रहा था.
अच्छा. लोगों को कुछ और दिखाई दिया तो लोग पूछना शुरू कर दिया कि सुबह सुबह.
No, he has created a new drink. It's called Coke Rum.
नहीं, सुबह सुबह हरि नाम का जप करे, सबसे अच्छा ड्रिंक है वो.
नहीं, बात तो सही है बिल्कुल.
अवेकनिंग अच्छी होती है उसमें.
हाँ, awakening से ज्यादा awakening होती है. That is the more important part.
That's what I said. Awakening अच्छी होती है उसमें.
सही बात है, सही बात है.
तो एक इस पे जो
ग्लोबल साउथ,
हाँ बोले,
इसका मैं एक और चीज में ऐड करना चाहता था. See, the thing is, so दो पॉइंट है. एक तो जो विभूति जी ने बोला कि taking that entire the whole global south with that in more of a geopolitical sense. The other is that many people don't realize that still the global south is the source of the wealth for the global north. आज भी जो फ्रेंच कॉलोनीज थी, आज भी France has the first right on all the natural resources of those countries. आज भी Africa is the basis for most of the wealth that goes on to Europe and to US. Now, if they awaken and if they come under a leadership of a country or an organization or people who are looking for them, looking out for them, and who have the ability to challenge the global north, then it would be a different ballgame altogether. If you look at all the responses that Dr. Jaishankar has been giving, you will see it is a direct confrontational, taking on the global north kind of a thing. It is almost like an audition going on for becoming the leader of the global south. And in that, he's voicing exactly what the global south wants to say but cannot, right? Because they don't have the strength. India has the strength, but India can also become the leader of the global south and close that the entire door from where the wealth is flowing out.
ये जो फेड रेट हाइक्स के बारे में डिस्कशन किया था एंड इकोनॉमी के बारे में, सो द मेरे हिसाब से अमेरिकन इकोनॉमी, दिस क्वेश्चन आदित्य जपे, माय आंसर विल बी economy is going to see a tailspin in USA very clearly. It is S&P 500 has come out with a 90% valuation of most American companies as intangibles. तो ये तो होने वाला है, but when will it start we don't know. Probably March, we don't know, but so all of us are ready for that. कोई और इसमें बोलेंगे देश जी, और कोई anyone can speak on this question?
Like आप बोलो, विभूति जी।
किस पे this rate hike वाला, economy वाला?
हाँ.
Sharad ji is an economist. I will take a stab at it.
You are a banker.
No, the banker doesn't have to be knowing everything about banking. But I'll tell you something. I will very simply say that generally the political cycles determine the economic news.
True.
So it's saying that 2024 is an election year.
Yes.
And generally the presidents and the administration do not want to do anything that disturbs the economy stupid argument. We all know that. But this particular 2024 is a very tricky election year for the universe. Let me put it that way. The world's three primary democratic countries, I call them, vital democracies, United States, India, and UK, will all go through election. They're scheduled for that, unless Sunak announces a snap election. All three of them are going to face election in 2024. There will be a huge, the left liberal cabal that will be trying to upset, because if these three countries return the right of center guys, they can kiss their baby goodbye for next 5 years. And there will be a very determined action from right of center. So this is going to be the Mahabharata of all times, because the caravan, kisko kahan pahunchna hai, that will be the key issue on which will be happening. So I think the rate hike and all this thing, that's why the Fed is doing all the rate hikes that has to be done within this year, so that
True.
the markets calm down and they factor into everything into account. Okay, so now we know. As we all know, the market doesn't like uncertainty. So now the market knows that it's factored in. That's what it is going to happen, in my opinion. I may be wrong.
So I agree with Vibhuti ji. American democracy is not a people's democracy. It's
Yes.
a electoral college democracy. Okay. So and people, all the viewers who are listening, you probably need to Google it because time is less. So when I say that people don't have all the levers in their hand to influence, and even the market doesn't have all the levers to influence, it will be all federal. And because 24 is the election year, IT industry and everything will be doing reasonably okay. So if you are looking for a job, don't worry, market will be fine, right? And if your stock has gone down, just wait for 2024. Government will do everything to jack it up. It's the lever is in the government hand, right? Whether it's a World Bank, IMF, credit rating, America, which has $31 trillion debt and only 25 plus trillion dollar economy, has a A++ credit rating by the credit agency. So you don't have any logic to think. Don't think like an Indian with all the tark and vitark. या नहीं चलता है यहाँ पे. So मान लीजिए कि ये सरकार सब कुछ कर सकती है. अगर लोगों को यहाँ पर इंडिया टाइप या सिविल डिसोबीडियंस जो एक बार कभी गलती से आ गया था ड्यूरिंग ब्लैक मूवमेंट, अब नहीं आएगा, because if that was the case, people would have marched into IRS office and said कि when the whole country has tanked up, इतना problem है, IRS should bring down their tax rate to a drastically low level. यहाँ पे nobody thinks on that. It's a very different country. So so that is my take on that part. So 24 is as Vibhuti said, is election year. So America will have a lot of rosy picture. A lot of companies will do good. and we are still seeing some sign of that in the stock market. So that's my take on it.
I think I agree.
So
ये क्वेश्चन जो है जो श्याम सुंदर जी का है, like I would encourage him to actually read the New York Times. Alex Trevelyan ने क्या कहा है on February 4th. Actually, वो New York Times बता रहा है ये बात. In an article on Adani, he has actually reserved 60% of space on Modi. So I think this question is for New York Times, not for us. And not for Adani, really.
So Desh ji, इस पे question
that is the exact question I was referring to, the New York Times article that I read today. Yeah, I mean,
so
the New York
Desh
Times
ji,
doesn't have the ability to talk about Sam Fried, Blackman, or all the things that happen, shenanigans happen here. But there, oh, it's a problem. That's right. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, we all are hearing that New York Times, and इनका fund करने वाला का final when we root it back, we know कहाँ से आ रहा है. But don't we also see that Modi ji has a very good relationship with all the countries जहाँ से ये money का fund हो रहा है, all the whether Egypt हुआ, UAE हुआ, Qatar हुआ, all the leadership level, he is very well connected, right? He's getting the best award. So strategically, is Mr. Doval not thinking to contain them, or they are enjoying it? They want the victimhood to be played for the election. I am maybe Deshji could strategize more on this thinking. Lekin every route is going where अगर आप एक certain faith-based country की बात कर रहे हैं, तो Modi ji has the best of best relationship. Whether even Israel, right? अभी recently Hindenburg का जो बंदा है, is an Israeli. The Kashmir file पर जिसको हम लोग ने judge बना के guest judge बना के बुलाया, he is an Israeli. So all the links goes to where government can pull the lever and manipulate that. So are they rogue element? That I don't know.
So
I just wanted to say something on that. So I do know that there are a lot of incompetent people everywhere, including in government positions, in foreign ministry and other ministries in India. There are people who actually do not do due diligence. I'll give you the example of the Kashmir Files judge who came from. I have personally met, I'm not going to name names here, obviously, people who are in very high positions of decision making, who do very poor research and who assume certain things. Like, for example, that every person from Israel thinks the same way. And these are people who make decisions based on those poor analysis and judgments. I'm not saying that this is across the board, but there are such individuals who have made such poor judgments and have paid the price for it, including the one for the Kashmir Files judge. I can tell you of another incident where a famous American think tank expert, who is very popularly, she is very popularly known on social media circles for being anti-Pakistan, was invited to an event in Delhi, I believe. And in front of the retired chief of the Air Force, she said that India did not shoot down an F-16 during Balakot. And again, due diligence was not done. That person's track record on and opinions on India and India's leadership was not analyzed. Just the fact that a person was anti-Pakistan was enough for somebody to be called to an event and then had egg on their face. So there are such incidences that I'm aware of, and I have closely observed them. So I won't make a generic statement that किसी के साथ किसी का connection नहीं है, and there is no sympathy factor being worked out in many of these cases. There could be something like that, but I can say that many of these cases are also examples of poor bureaucratic decision making and poor analysis amongst the Indian government officials.
I totally agree. And like one of the things that I would like to add here is that so there is a bureaucratic layer, right, which does all this drama and nonsense that Utsavji is talking about. The other side is Doval's, Shah's, and Modi. What are they doing? This is my personal assessment. So it may be right or it may be wrong. But they, and plus Dr. Jaishankar, all four of them, if I put together, they have been actually when I look at them as an observer, I see that they have not been like working with a sword, but with a scalpel. So it is an action to action, event to event, incident to incident, and interest to interest kind of deals that they have been doing. And that's the only way. So that is why, Dr. Jaishankar keeps on talking about multipolarity, because the only way you can succeed in that multipolar world is by like using the scalpel every time. So even if somebody is against us, जैसे China hai, but we are still doing trade with them, because that retains. And similarly how US and China work, even if they are against, they still have trade going on, because then there is a leverage that you can always keep using. That creation of leverage would be lost if we use a sword. It'll be better to use a scalpel and work on an event to event and interest to interest kind of a strategy. And so in that way, and plus like about Israel, like Utsavji was saying, there are many nuances in their own country, similarly like they are in India. Many nuances. Now somebody would say, "Arey Mahua Mohitra to like India se usko bula lo." So it's something. So Mahua Mohitra does not represent India, does not represent Modi, does not represent any thing sane that we can think of, right? And similarly, whether it is on the like Praveen Togadia or whoever, like nobody really represents the whole society in that sense. Now, in this case, Egypt may, the strange thing was LCC actually was giving the sovereign fund backup to Adani just day or so ago. Like उसने यही कहा था ना कि he's backing it up. So there are a lot of nuances which are going on and changes that are happening. How this will pan out in the future, and how whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Egypt, whether it is UAE or Israel, how they will react in the future, in the near future, will determine a lot of things.
Gentlemen, if you permit me, I got to go.
Okay.
So I want to thank all of you for a wonderful time that I had with you. And thank you all the viewers for being. I have to go somewhere, so I'll take leave of you.
चलिए.
Satyamev Jayate.
Satyamev Jayate. So we are also ending now. So all the viewers who are watching, you can become a member of Sattology and also join our courses. August 25, 2023, we are having a Lit Fest in San Diego. All of you are welcome. Those who are in the US must register. Especially if you're an author or publisher, do join us. So yeah, all these people, all three people will be here. Four people, Vibhuti and Sharad and Utsav, and they should be here. So you can all join here. Plus some other dignitaries will be here. So thank you all for joining. Every month we do that. Once a month. We had planned for twice in a month, but we do once a month now. And this will be a regular show. You can join us on Sunday, ask any question. One person asked about the caste system, that why we don't speak too much about the caste system here. First of all, we say, according to us, that caste is a European word. But if you search on Chat GPT, the caste is completely, Europeans have given it to India. उत्सव जी आपने देखा होगा, चैट जीपीटी में सर्च करेंगे कास्ट इज ए इंडियन थिंग, वो ऑलरेडी शुरू हो गया है. तो चैट जीपीटी मैंने लिख दिया कि विकिपीडिया इज लाइक विकिपीडिया, सो डोंट ट्रस्ट इट मच. तो समवेयर वी हैव टू टेक द नैरेटिव बैक. लेकिन कैसे करेंगे, अभी हमको जगन्नाथ जी से प्रार्थना करना पड़ेगा. हाउ डू वी गेट इट द बुद्धि टू डू दैट. So Hindus are united. You can see from all parts of the US, people have joined. They all belong to different organizations. Everyone has come together. Anyone wants to add anything, or any of us?
I just wanted to first of all thank you, Aditya ji, for setting this up. I have to say that this is one of the most interesting, engaging, and informed conversations I have had in our space with any group of people in a long period of time. So I thank you, everybody, Sharad ji, everybody for coming, and Deshji's writings, anybody who reads it knows what it is. So Vibhuti-ji, you all have done a fantastic job. Thank you so much giving me this opportunity to be here. Secondly, I just wanted to plug in something that as a project we have started, since it's relevant to our work. It's a completely independent 501c3 that we have registered. You can see the need for why we need to be in spaces like Washington, D.C. and across the grassroots in the country. It's called hinduaction.org. No affiliation with any organization. It's a completely independent one. Please help us, support us, give small donations. Our goal is not to receive big funding, but to have 10,000 people give $10 monthly to make this happen. Because as I said, as we saw in this discussion, we cannot gain power and education in America without influencing power and education in America. So thank you so much. That's all I wanted to say.
I wanted to add two quick things before we end up. So thank you everyone. It was really nice interacting with you. मेरा जो अपना सोच है for viewers also, from 2024 to 2034, India should align with NATO. अगेन आदित्य जिस पे एग्री करेंगे नहीं, लेकिन मैं एशियन यूनिटी का होपफुल नहीं हूँ. व्हेन आई वाज स्टूडेंट आई यूज्ड टू थिंक लॉट अबाउट इट, बट वो एक्टिविस्ट मूवमेंट है, ये सब इट विल नॉट वर्क. इंडिया शुड अलाइन विद नाटो, गेट ऑल द नो हाउ, टेक्नोलॉजी, सारा ज्ञान, एंड जब तक वो $10 ट्रिलियन का इकोनॉमी नहीं बनता है, उसको अपनी लीडरशिप और विश्व गुरु बनिए, लेकिन ओवर प्रोएक्टिव मत रहिए, क्योंकि अभी अडानी को पंचर किया गया है, बहुत सी चीज पंचर हो सकता है. और सबसे पहली बात है कि आपकी अपोजिशन एक नहीं है. द वन थिंग विच आई एम सीइंग दिस गवर्नमेंट शुड डू इज, अगर आपको पावर बनना है तो आप अपोजिशन को कुछ रोल दीजिए. राहुल गांधी को यूएई हैंडल करने दीजिए, आप महुआ मित्रा को नेपाल है, मैंने यू हैव टू यूज देम, मेक देम ऑफिस का कुछ ऑफिस बियरर. इफ यू सीइंग योरसेल्फ एज अ बिग पावर, तो आपका एक नैरेटिव पूरा चेंज हो जाएगा. दूसरा सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट मैं कंक्लूजन में ये बोलना चाहता हूँ कि इफ वी कैन रीच टू जयशंकर जी, आपका जो भी आपकी अभी तो इंडिया एक प्रीटी डोमिनेंट पावर है. देयर आर 200+ कंट्रीज, हर कंट्री में 2 कॉन्सुलेट और एम्बेसी के लोग हैं, तो अराउंड 400 जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज. आप जयशंकर जी के अंडर में जितने भी डायस्पोरा के लड़के हैं जो यहाँ के आईवी वगैरह से निकल के आ रहे हैं, प्रॉपर इंटरव्यू प्रोसेस रखिए, प्रॉपर स्क्रीनिंग प्रोसेस रखिए, एंड मेक देम द ऑफिशियल फॉर इंडिया. इससे क्या होगा कि जो जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलेगा इनको, सपोज हार्वर्ड के लड़के यहाँ के कॉन्सुलेट जनरल बन रहे हैं इंडिया के, रादर देन अ ब्यूरोक्रेट कमिंग फ्रॉम इंडिया, वो यहाँ के सिस्टम में एक एक चीज में, जैसे बैंकिंग हुआ, कॉलेजेस हुआ, कहाँ घुसना है उनसे बढ़िया कोई नहीं जान सकता है. और इससे क्या होगा कि वो एक बहुत बड़ा नेटवर्किंग का फील आएगा कि हम लोग को यहाँ पर जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटी है रिप्रेजेंटिंग इंडिया, राइट. आप वो करिए, बहुत ड्रास्टिक, ये आउट ऑफ बॉक्स थिंकिंग है, मैसिव चेंज होगा और एक बहुत बड़ा सेंस ऑफ अटैचमेंट आएगा. ये अटैचमेंट दूर से हम लोग अभी जो भी कर रहे हैं सब हम डायस्पोरा कर रहे हैं. द गवर्नमेंट बीच बीच में आती है, मोदी जी का एक बहुत बड़ा कॉन्क्लेव होता है, यानी गवर्नमेंट का होता है, बट दैट्स इट. जयशंकर जी शुड बी द बॉस, जयशंकर जी और whoever जो भी गवर्नमेंट है, एंड ये डायस्पोरा शुड बी रनिंग द रिस्पेक्टिव कंट्री कॉन्सुलेट. आप देखिए ड्रास्टिक अंतर होगा, आपको ज्यादा मेहनत करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी और हमारे बच्चे मोर अलाइंड होंगे इंडियन कल्चर को. ऑब्वियसली वंस यू ज्वाइन देयर विल बी अ ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम, उनको कल्चर के बारे में बताना होगा, 3 months का कोर्स होगा, वो सब एक अलग मैकेनिज्म है. बट आई थिंक कि दीज आर द थिंग्स व्हिच गवर्नमेंट शुड थिंक रादर देन ब्रिंगिंग समबडी फ्रॉम इंडिया.
सर जी, जस्ट ऑन अ लाइटर नोट, आपने पाकिस्तान को एक पप्पू से दूसरे पप्पू को दे दिया.
So like like personally I'm really privileged के यहाँ के इतने names that I would always read about and watch and look up to. मैं उनके साथ बैठ के डिस्कशन कर रहा हूँ, तो मेरे लिए for me it is a big deal. तो बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिल रहा है. And so for me it has been a very good opportunity. And my thing has been drishtikon.com, which I've been writing since 2005. आजकल अब मेरी सिर्फ न्यूज़लेटर ज़्यादा चलती है जो around 1500 लोगों के पास जाती है, and it is I I feel it is like I do a lot of research. I put a lot of effort into that. And the way I want to look at things is more holistic, more strategic, and also in a way that is different from the normal, rut. मुझे किसी ने बोला था कि आप यहाँ के न्यूज़पेपर के लिए आप आर्टिकल लिख सकते हैं by looking at 3 or 4 articles in the Indian newspaper. तो मैंने उनको कहा था, वो ही इज अ बिग शॉट इन इंडिया, तो मैंने उनको कहा था, मैंने कहा मेरे लिए इंसल्ट की बात अगर कोई को ये कहे कि मैं इंडियन जर्नलिस्ट की चीजें पढ़ के खुद का अपना चीज, they are really so rank bad, they don't go beyond 1 centimeter of the news. So for me that has been the motivation, and I really think it is time that we start asking questions that deepen our understanding of things, and also look at things in a very nuanced and different way than we have been looking at things. जैसे महाभारत में था, there were many forces like fighting, but all were intertwined in different ways and acting in different ways at different times with different people. That's how we need to be. So thank you so much, Aditya ji, for inviting.
No, you are all part of Sattology. So Sattology's work is very simple. We promote Ramayana, Mahabharat, and research on Ramayana, Mahabharat, and education on Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Puran. So people should join Sattology, and everybody, all of you are, everyone is part of it because everyone is speaking truth about it. But and also people have a problem. For people, everybody can use the word Sattology only on commercial applications. That's where we are going to restrict that only on commercial applications. Sattology is a, so if anyone wants to use Sattology instead of mythology, you are very welcome to do that. तो आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सब लोगों का जुड़ने के लिए, और जो भी दर्शक लोग जुड़े हुए हैं उनके लिए, आप लोगों के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका जुड़ने के लिए। कमेंट करिए, मेंबर बनिए, इनके सबके साथ जुड़िए, उत्सव के साथ जुड़िए, देश के साथ जुड़िए, और शरद जी के साथ जुड़िए। सब लोग ये सभी राइटर्स हैं, पुस्तकें लिखते हैं, आर्टिकल्स लिखते हैं, और इंडियन अमेरिकन आइडेंटिटी इज डिफरेंट देन एनी अदर आइडेंटिटी। यहाँ पे हिंदू अमेरिकन हैं हम लोग, और अमेरिका में भी मेरा तो आई विल रिक्वेस्ट ऑल द मेन स्ट्रीम चैनल्स ऑल्सो टू स्टार्ट representing an Indic or Hindu point of view also. And Native Americans are very welcome. In the next show we are doing is exclusive with Native Americans, and so that because Hindus share a lot of common cultural bonds with Native Americans in terms of belief system, in terms of worship, the way we worship. So that is also our focus of Sattology. So please do join, support us, and become a part. Namaste and thank you.